I do have, at least in the police department and in our administration, I do kind of help bridge that gap between kind of the technology use and some of the dangers with AI and upcoming technology, and some of the concerns with the older community. But as I was explaining to Nancy, these concerns, these scams that we're going to talk about and how they're done, they do affect everyone. We get people, young and old, who are victims of these. So it's not just the older generation who falls victim to it, but we do find that the older generations, because you guys have grown up more trusting, right? That the people you're talking to on the phone or communicating with online, when you guys were growing up, they were actually those people. And nowadays, with AI and everything else, it's not even a person, right? So we're going to talk about all that today. So a couple objectives for today. First thing is we're going to define what phishing is. Phishing is the main way that a lot of personal identification gets stolen. We're going to recognize what red flags are in emails and messages and communications, and then we're going to develop our critical thinking skills when we receive communications to kind of identify what those issues are, so we can say, hold on, this might be a scam. So what is phishing? All right. Phishing is where someone tries to trick you into revealing your personal information, your bank account numbers, your date of birth, your social security, your address, any sort of information that they can then turn into other gains in some way, shape, or form. And it can happen through a variety of communication. It can be, email, it can be text message, it can be, pop-ups on your computer, it can be automated phone calls. So yeah, like I said, it can be email, it can be text messages, it can be social media. So these are some illustrations of the types of phishing. And I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit farther away, but you've probably seen these types of things, in your day-to-day as you're online, or you're going through emails. You've probably seen an email that kind of looks like this. This is PayPal. This is a common online financial transaction company, right? But that's not actually PayPal, right? This is a standard text message appearance, right? And this is a standard pop-up that you would see on any website. So some of our red flags that we're going to talk about: urgent or threatening language, suspicious sender information, requests for personal information, misspellings or grammatical errors, suspicious links or attachments, generic greetings, and it's too good to be true, right? That's the one we all say and we all know, but we want to believe it, right? We want to believe it. So, urgent or threatening language. These are going to be phrases like, urgent action needed, or, your account will be suspended, or your account may be deleted. Right? If you've put years into your social media account or your bank account, and they tell you all of a sudden your information is going to be deleted or lost or suspended, and you get that time trigger in your brain, what does that stop you from doing? It stops you from thinking, right? Suspicious sender information. They may appear initially on the surface to be from legitimate people or organizations, but if you look closely, you're going to see that there's probably something that doesn't quite doesn't quite come from what a real company or a real person would send. They're always, this is the key. Let me see if this works. There we go. Yeah. They are always going to request your personal information, because that's the whole point of it, is to get your personal information. This one we see less and less often, especially as AI has now come out there, and a lot of these things are being created through AI. AI is very good at eliminating this, misspellings or grammatical errors, right? Back in, when online scams and phone scams really started coming about, that was an easy one to pick up, right? There were grammatical errors all the time, because you had people in other countries, right, who were doing the actual translations themselves, right? And so these were human beings translating and making human being errors. But with AI now, even if it's coming from other countries, their translations are grammatically perfect. Their spellings don't have much errors. But you can still find a few things. Generally, we find it in formatting. So we're going to talk about that too. Suspicious links or attachments. This is one that's still very prominent, right? They want to take you to some other site or click on some other link, because a lot of times it is asking for information, also accompanied probably by some malware or a virus or something that they want to put on your computer. Generic greetings. They don't know who you are. In all reality, they don't know who's looking at this screen. Right? They are bulk messaging. With technology, they can send out 1 million, 5 million, 10 million messages at the click of a button, right? Just as easy as anything else, right? And they don't need to take the time to figure out if it's going to Sally or Susan or Bob or Carol or whoever, right? So you're not going to see something real personalized most of the time. And then number 7, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So going back to our examples. Urgent language. In our PayPal example, it says your PayPal account is limited. You have 24 hours to solve the problem. Right? In the text message, you have to click the link within 24 hours. On this pop-up ad here, you only have 4 minutes and 14 seconds, and this is a countdown, right? So this is gonna, as you're looking at this is counting down, right? Yes, ma'am. Or yes.
About 2 weeks ago, I got a check.
Yes.
$9,750. That's a number to call and verify. They wanted me to go to the bank immediately. I knew it was a scam.
Yes.
But that's an example of what they're doing.
Yes.
You got to speak up, dear, just like I had to.
Yeah. So I'll explain what he said. So he said he received a check in the mail a couple weeks ago for a large sum, $9,000 some dollars. This is one we see fairly often too. And what they'll do a lot of times is they'll email out or they'll send out big checks, and then they'll say, "Oh, you know what? Hey, can you just cash it for me or deposit it into your account? It's an overpayment for something. Maybe they ask you to do something, and send me back 5,000 of that. You can keep 4,000 of that for your convenience, right? Send me back 5,000, right? Because that's what I, sorry, my bad. It was over a change in the check, a mess up on my part, but for your convenience and thing, send me back just that amount. All right. Well, a lot of people say, "Oh, great, cash it, get it to the bank, send the money out same day." Well, 3 or 4 days later, when the bank goes through their processes, they say, "Hey, that was a fake check." They said, you don't actually have that 9,000 and some dollars in your account, but now you've sent out $5,000 from your account, so you're $5,000 out. Right? And so that's that particular scam. That's how they make money from it. It's always generally an overpayment, or oh, we sent you too much for this, just keep 500, however much out of this overpayment, and send us the balance. So we talk about suspicious senders. This one from PayPal. Now this one, I know you can't see it from there, but this is from Team Support Services at PayPalAccounts.com. Now that one's pretty close. That one would be tough to figure out on its own, right? But generally, team support isn't necessarily that's not like an account services one, right? If we think about that, that's a very generic name for something, right? If we're looking at it now through the lens of this is a completely fake, scam email, team support sounds like a very generic email address. This is a text message supposed to be from the U.S. Postal Service. Anybody know the U.S. Postal Service ever go by the name U.S. Post? No, they don't, right? U.S. Post says you have a USPS parcel, right? That's kind of suspicious, right? And requesting the personal information. Remember, they're all going to have that, right? What can I do to resolve the problem? It's not, hey, call in here, speak to our representative, let's get this cleared up. It's, hey, you have to confirm all your account details. How is just confirming my account details do anything, right? Please confirm the zip code address information in the link, right? Enter the correct information on the next page to claim your prize. Every single one, they want you to confirm or enter information. And then this is the one I said they're seeing less and less of, the misspellings or the grammatical errors. Again, this is tough to see. I apologize for that. But in this pop-up ad here, you have a 1, it's a bullet point here. But you have congratulations, won $1,000 Amazon gift card, the 1 bullet point, and then it just goes, is reserved just for you, Facebook user. No capitalization. It kind of interrupts the entire flow of that sentence with a 1 bullet point. If you were an English teacher or something, you would be flipping tables over that. Right? So, that is where you're still, we're still catching some things because AI still doesn't do great on formatting documents. There's no spelling mistakes, but the formatting is where it still has some issues. And we go to the suspicious links, right? We all know what a general, online link would look like, right? www.google.com, and then if it goes further, / maps or, search or documents or whatever, right? Well, the PayPal one has a confirm your information link. Okay, that's not too crazy. Here, the U.S. Postal Service one has USPS.com-BCAM/ a whole wild range of random letters and numbers and everything else that goes on for the length of it. Right? Does that sound like a government link to you? No, it doesn't. Nope. Also, anybody know what government links generally end in? .gov. Yep. Yep. And then, you got a link right here as well. They always want to try and take you somewhere else. Yes?
I've got an example. Almost got me. My insurance company is USAA. I've been with them for over 50 years. I know their formats, I know the framing, I know the wording, phraseology they send. And occasionally they send saying like, your subscriber savings account has been updated. Yeah, like this about. They sent me one. I read through it very carefully. The format was just perfect. And so I thought, okay, it's USAA. So I clicked on it. And then I looked at the link. It was a suspicious link. It didn't have USAA in it. It had something, not going there.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you go through all the formatting things, suspicious links, look at every one of them.
Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk to us about hovering? Like, to your point, hovering, you hover over the link and then it gives you additional information.
Yeah. So if you take your mouse, right, then you're moving around the screen. If you let it pause over a link or a shortcut, right? If you bring it up and you were to bring your mouse and you were to put it over that without clicking and give it a second, in most cases, it will show you the full link of the full address of what it's about to send you to, right? And it will, especially when they're suspicious, they will be very, very long, okay? And they're going to be a lot of random numbers and letters and backslashes and everything else because they're going through all sorts of random addresses.
And that's called hovering.
That's called hovering. Yeah, you're hovering your mouse over it, so you're not clicking on anything. But that will, yeah. So that's what. That's a good point, though. That's a good way to kind of see where that link might take you. Another thing when we talk about links too and website addresses is, to your point, they can pretty easily copy what a website looks like, right? And the general look and feel of a website. If you had USAA, right, or a government website, right? This is where they're often trying to do it. Government websites. But they can't copy the exact government website address, so maybe they do it usgovernment.com, right? Or, USA Gov, or make a minor change in the address, name or link, hoping you don't catch it. You go there and it looks, it's going to look like a legitimate website. All right, so it is important to look at what, across the top of your screen, what that website address is. And then we go to the generic greetings. Again, when you are in communication with, your insurance company, your utility company, any sort of company or person that you do business with, your bank, right? They're going to know who you are, right? And more than likely, they're going to address you by your name, right? So if they're not addressing you by your name, if they're calling you PayPal customer, or they just say, hey, you have a post, or this is reserved just for you, Facebook user, right? You know that is just a generic thing that's been put out. And so if it's generic, that should be throwing up red flags. All right. No one of these things automatically means it's a scam, but this whole thing is about when we get those red flags thrown up, we need to slow down, take our time, and start to think critically about what we're looking at. And then the too good to be true. Again, right here. Congratulations, you got a $1,000 Amazon gift card just for entering some information, and we'll send you $1,000 in the mail. That doesn't, as much as we would love that to be true, and trust me, my wife would have it spent in a day. Yes, Jerry.
I get frequently from FedEx, and I have a package and they need my address. I know I haven't ordered anything,
Yeah.
but when they just want your correct address for what in the future, take your package.
Yeah.
FedEx is the best thing.
Yeah, that would be, any part that they can use. I mean, they're going to then associate probably your phone number with your address, right? And then they have then two points of information, right, on this thing. And they can probably say, well, here's my phone number, here's my address. It helps them probably build a fake identity or something like that. Yeah. So that I don't know exactly, because I get them too. I don't know exactly what the purpose behind those scams are, or if it is just to drive you to go to the links where they then want to download viruses or try and collect additional information. But avoid those. Yeah. So that is generally phishing, right? And they call it phishing. Just like, regular fishing. They're just fishing for your information. All right. So but you've got other types of scams as well. And these can be in all sorts of different forms too. It can be on the phone, text message, email, online. And these generally are based in government agencies, utility companies, tech support, grandparent scam. Will probably be something most of you in here need to be careful of, right? A romance and business opportunity. These are all ones I have taken reports on before. All right, so a government agency scam. You have probably seen announcements about these somewhat frequently because these rely on your fear of compliance with with government authority. Right? They come in the form of a phone call or a message saying, you have a warrant. You owe money to the IRS. Right? If you don't pay within a certain time period, right, we're going to send federal agents to your door. We're going to send the local police. When they call the police and tell them that they're going to send the local police to their door for a warrant, that's kind of funny. But I say, try me, but it's the same red flags that we see with phishing, right? But they're relying on us to get scared or us to be compliant with authority to get us to turn over money, right? And we need to be careful about these because these, no one wants to challenge the authority. Most of us are raised to do what authority tells us to do, right? But when authority starts telling you to go buy Apple gift cards to pay off your warrant, right? That's when we need to start questioning authority, okay? But also government agencies, if there's one thing about bureaucracy, it's slow, okay? They don't communicate by text message. They rarely and almost never communicate by phone or email, right? They communicate by mail, all right? And most of them say, we will never call you on the phone, all right? Don't try and pay us over the phone, all right? You can mail a check to, it's Seaford, right? You can mail a check into City Hall. You can mail a check to the IRS building in DC or wherever, right? So that's the thing with government type scams. Utility company scams, very big right now, right? With utility rates and everything else. This one relies on your fear of losing your services. No one wants to be stuck out in the cold. So text message, I think I've gotten one of these too. Your electric bill, this one is an overpayment, right? Probably trying to go with that overpayment route we talked about. But also, your payment hasn't gone through, right? Or you owe money for this reason or that reason, click on this link to pay your bill, right? No one wants their power to be cut off all of a sudden, so they're going to quickly go try and pay their bill. Remember, if they are encouraging you to do something quickly, that's when you probably need to slow down and say, let me think about this. All right. And again, utility companies are the same way as government agencies. They almost will exclusively communicate by mail. All right. Tech support. This one's rough because this one means your computer probably needs to be looked at by an expert. But people get pop-ups like these on their computers, right? Or they get pop-ups and people are actually they're getting things that are actually responding to them on the computer. It means your computer's definitely got a virus, right? You need to go take it to a shop and get it cleaned up. If you don't know how to kind of clean it yourself, which most of us don't or shouldn't do. But do not call this number, okay? Because that person, they spend all day practicing talking to people and convincing them that they are actual tech support, right? And I have had people spend days running around town to Walmart and Rite Aids and Royal Farms and buying gift cards and Bitcoin and everything else, and thousands of dollars to send to the computer repair technician to get them to fix whatever issue is going on with their computer, to get them to remove the virus that's on their computer, right? Most of the time, the virus that's on their computer only allows them to basically throw this thing up there, right? Once you start clicking on links or calling numbers, that's where you get yourself into deeper trouble. Same thing here, right? That looks like a legitimate Microsoft thing. But once you get a Microsoft.Inc. warning, Microsoft.Inc. They don't refer themselves as Microsoft.Inc. Right? Like, they've got better marketing than this format. Right? So, we're going to talk about what we can do for all of these things.
So, Chief,
yes.
what's the mechanism for a pop-up? How are they doing that?
It's generally they've gotten some sort of virus on your computer, right? And it allows them to, and I'm no tech expert, I'm not a computer scientist, but it allows them to basically put it on there and put the pop-up on there. And really they're relying on you then to take further steps to connect to them. If you don't do anything, probably not much more that's going to happen in regards to to things like this, right? Yes.
I was going to say, you can tighten up your security through your settings, but there's a limit to it. But you can deny a lot of pop-ups from at least at a nuisance level.
Yeah. They do have. Most computers have pop-up, especially now, have pop-up blockers built in. They're generally located up by the address bar at the top of your web browser or something. If you don't know exactly where that is or what to click on, you always ask a friend. Yes.
So I'm on my laptop.
Uh-huh.
Using my dedicated Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
which is in my apartment, and I'm doing some things on the internet.
Little louder.
I'm going to the bank, or I'm going checking an insurance policy or whatever. So, and all of a sudden, here comes this warning. So was that always resident on the computer and they just exercised it, or was it timed in to do something, or what?
I don't. Honest answer is I don't know exactly. What I can tell you is, at some point, the people who get those, at some point, went on probably to a bad website, and they followed.
There's Trojan horse period.
Yes, yeah. They followed a bad link somewhere. They clicked on a bad link somewhere, went to a bad website, downloaded a bad file. Right, so that's what it is. It's a file sitting somewhere in their computer. Right, and at some point it activates. It's probably not an external connection into your computer from an outside source. It's probably more of a dormant thing until you go back online. But I don't want to say for certain. I'm not an expert, and I don't want to steer you exactly wrong. Best thing to do is, like I said, if you get a pop-up like this, and especially if you get a pop-up like this, and there seems to be someone on the other end who is actively communicating with you through your pop-up, you should just probably take your computer to a software store and have them clean it up for you. All right. Yeah.
We get a lawyer about once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Calls and asks us about a Walmart account we've ever had. And I told him, I said, you guys are a scam. And he got really mad. So I was laughing at him, and he finally hung up, and a woman called back. And I told him, I'm going to send you our information and our lawyer to handle this account. And then go up and go. She goes, okay. We hung up. They do it about once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy group.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably have lists and lists and lists of people, and just every so often they recycle through the list. And it's all a numbers game, right? You don't have to hit on every fish, but if you can get through 1 million fish in a day, you're going to hit on 100 of them or 1,000 of them. And when we talk about hitting, we're not talking about $5. We're talking about 500 or 5,000, or when we get to one of these other scams, I'll tell you about a bigger case I had. Yes, sir.
When I got my check, I noticed right away, go to the bank, and tell them so-and-so called. They wanted me to go immediately to the bank and cash the check.
Yep. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That time urgency thing is all designed to get you to not think critically about what they're asking you to do. Yes.
You mentioned gift cards. About several months ago, I won $1 million.
Congratulations.
I have to go to Walmart and get one of those cards. Meet them at the bank. Well, wouldn't somebody be there? I mean, I could have called the police. Well, I did after this. And they always say meet you at the bank.
They weren't going to be at the bank. What they would have done is they would have had you call them back, right? And then they would have given you further instructions to do something at the bank, right? Oh, I got a flat tire. I can't meet you. Can you do this or this or this? Right?
Okay, because I thought, well, how young can you get? Because I could notify authority and say, have them go in with it.
Yeah. No, they're not going to be at the bank. They're never going to meet you in person, because they're probably not even in Delaware, probably not even in the U.S. More than likely. Yes, Nancy.
What are you going to do if you have a person that is losing their memory, and they get these scams, and they go ahead and really, they're not capable of thinking in advance. They don't have family that's right there. Is there a thing like, okay, they don't have any television anymore, or they don't have any computer? How do you protect them?
That's one of the reasons that old people get targeted. is because they're vulnerable for that very reason, right? Is their family support is inconsistent. Their health is failing. They're not as technologically savvy generally, right? That's why they're big targets. The best thing I can say is what I have found over the years is if you are a child of a parent who is starting to go down that road and you think is vulnerable to these types of things, to put some real security measures on their computer, right? Basically put like parental controls on their computer, right? Get financial power of attorney over them, so that they can't just they can't get a phone call and go to the bank and withdraw $30,000 and send it to someone on a whim, right? Like these are all things I've dealt with, things I've experienced and seen, right? And people have had to say, what do we do now? Well, now we can say you should probably go get power of attorney now so it doesn't happen more, right? But that would be probably my advice for the family members or the children of lock down, your parents' computers, get control over their finances so that they can't make major withdrawals or changes in their bank account information without at least talking to you first. As uncomfortable as that probably is for the parent, it's a situation where you don't want your parent to end up bankrupt either.
No, and I have a friend that this happened to. She was a classmate, and she lived by herself, and she was very well off,
Mm-hmm.
and she does not have a penny now.
Mm-hmm.
Her family's having to take care of her.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm 91, so I gave my son power of attorney, and I don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even use my computer.
Yeah, and that probably honestly helps protect you from being a victim of some of these scams, because they're very convincing. Like I said, they get people of all ages. The grandparent scam, right? Says, "Hi, Grandma, it's me. I'm in trouble and need money right away. Can you help me out?" Or, "Hi, Granddad. Hey, look, I messed up. I'm in jail. Can you send me bail money? All right? I need it in Apple gift cards." Or yes.
They get into demographic information that lets them know they're hitting the target. In other words,
All right, you want to know the scary truth about this? Everybody's information is out there. Everybody's information out there. My information, your information. There have been so many data leaks throughout the years. Every single person's information in this room is out there for a price. Yes.
Also, be careful how you answer the phone. A lot of times, when someone calls me, I don't speak into the phone. I wait for them to address me because they're recording your voice.
Yeah, that could be part of it. Or don't say your name if you just give a greeting, hello, right?
The camera lenses, they record your voice, and as a result of that I hear your voice, and when you call the bank, they want to know your voice, whatever.
Yeah. You want to come up here and teach this slide? Yeah. So that was one of the things I was going to hit on. This did not used to be as popular of a scam a few years ago because it was hard to fake, a grandchild's voice. Now, if you've not seen or heard from that grandchild in a while, like that's kind of what they count on too. It's like, oh, I've not talked to them in 5 years. Like, do I remember exactly what they sound like? Maybe not, right? Or maybe it's been even longer since you've heard from them or kept up to date with them. They're relying on the fact that you panic. Say, oh yes, sweetie, I don't want you rotting in some foreign jail. Let me send you money, somewhere else. A couple of things with this one. Slow down. You can ask them for something that, that only someone who was actually in your family would know. All right, if you are really, little Jimmy, what did,
What's your mother's name?
What's your mother's name? Yeah.
What I used to call you.
What I used to call you. What'd you get for your 10th birthday? Not that any of us actually remember, but yeah, yeah. See what they say, right? That might give you a clue, because it is possible that your grandchild called you, but more than likely, right? If your grandchild was in jail or in trouble, you would probably have a pretty strong relationship with that grandchild already. If you were their emergency contact for a crisis, you'd probably know what they were up to, and you'd probably have a good idea if they were likely to be in jail or not, right? Hang up. Call another family member. If a grandchild, call your son or daughter. Say, hey, where's little Billy? You know what they're up to? Have you spoken to them lately? I just got a call from someone who was pretending to, or who claimed to be them. Right? Take a few minutes. 5 minutes to figure out where little Billy's actually at, is not going to be a big difference. If little Billy's claiming to be in jail, say, okay, what jail are you in? Right? Because I keep saying jail because that's usually what they say is usually, hey, I got arrested or something. That's the most common one. And then you can always call up there and say, hey, do you have this person in custody? Right? Jails will tell you if they have someone in custody. Right? That's not secret information. Create family safe words. It's a little bit over the top, but if you are really concerned about it, you can always create a family safe word, or maybe a common family saying, right? A family motto type of deal. A code. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any of those types of things that kind of goes back to personal information that only a real person would know. Okay. This last line down here, AI can mimic voices practically perfectly. All right. As the gentleman was saying, this is more popular now because AI, well, one, young people are on the internet all the time, right? They're doing TikTok videos, they're doing social media posts, everything else. So their voices, their likenesses are out there. AI is to the point where it can copy their facial features, it can copy their body movements, it can copy their voices, and it can, from a few sentences, it can say whatever they want them to say in their voice from just a few sentences of material.
That's scary.
It is. Yeah.
What's worse than that with AI now that's gotten to be so developed, the new scam is out, somebody will call, it's a nice voice. Hi, is this Nancy? What do you say?
Yeah.
Never say yes on the phone, never say no. Once they have your voice, and if you put it on the cell graph, you can see it's a voice like your thumbprint.
Yeah.
Now they know who you are, where you live, your phone number. They probably know where you bank. They'll try to get into your bank account. And if your bank is automated, is this Nancy? And they hit yes because they have your voice. Never say yes. Never say no. Somebody says, is this Mary? Who's calling? Ask them a question. Don't answer their question. It's gotten.
Aren't they recording that?
Yes.
They may be, but it isn't like your thumbprint. When you say hello and when you say yes, it is a specific graphic print that can be replicated. No, just they say who is, ask them a question. Don't ever say yes and don't ever say no unless it's somebody you know.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the banks and things, you know, it's a constant back and forth between trying to secure your money, right, and secure your information, and technology that can defeat that security. So, you know, right now, AI is a technology that can overcome a lot of it, which is why we're getting to double and triple types of authentications, and in some cases going back to older models of technology or communication to defeat new technology, as strange as that seems.
Another one. Let me send a text through your phone. Okay, to verify who you are. Okay, and the numbers pop up on your phone. And then you give them the numbers back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say that a little louder?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. What they would do, okay, we will call in. It could be another number. Sometimes it could be a file called Best Buy, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes with Best Buy, the 800 number, some of the people that are hacking, right, they know the Best Buy number. And at that point, let me send you a code to your phone.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you type in that code through your phone, they hack your.
Oh, that's everybody. Xfinity.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
You're not safe with anything anymore.
I've not heard that one come up too often yet, but I mean, technology is out there for it.
Since last night at 10 o'clock, I have 6 email in my junk. And one of them is to my business account, one is my personal account, and they're all scams. Your iCloud payment was not processed. Your iCloud will expire.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I deleted the iCloud.
Yeah.
I did about it. I also deleted this. There's just, you can't believe how many.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, everyone's information is out there, you know, and all we can do really at this point is kind of monitor your stuff and don't give it away to people who are actively seeking to get it, right? Because yes, it's out there, but the people who want to use it have to go and find it and search for it and to get it and use it, right? So you know, every time that like I said, the banks and things like that, they have safeguards in place to try and prevent against, you know, a lot of this now, so that, you know, they will have to, you know, you've got text messages on your phone where they say, hey, you know, we've received suspicious activity, right? If this, you know, was you, no action needed. If it wasn't, you need to call into your local branch, right? Or that's what I would do, right? Call into your local branch. Don't call in. Don't call back on that number, right? Because again, that can be a fake text message, right? Yes.
I got one from the bank, and I wasn't sure, so I took it to the bank, the letter,
Mm-hmm.
and it was right.
Yeah.
But, you know, you get scared because they say, you know, their letterheads and everything else they can copy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was asking for all this information.
Mm-hmm. We don't see as much mail scams anymore because it costs money to mail. The online stuff is cheaper, right? And you can reach a much greater audience. It's still, the mail scams are still out there, but again, you have to actually print stuff out, mail it, and everything else. For what return?
Constantly on phones. Oh, even us old ones. Is there any way that you could take it back to where you bought it and ask them to clean it up every so often, every 3 or 4 months?
Your phone?
Pardon?
Just clean up your phone?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You do like they would probably do like a factory reset on it, right? Which kind of clears it all back to basically a brand new phone.
Yeah.
Right? But you can do that, as Jerry just said, you can do that yourself, which, but it's not.
Some stuff I don't want to clear either, so I'm not sure how extensive it is.
Right, yeah. If you've got a lot of stuff that you would miss on your phone, you want to be careful about that. So if you don't know exactly what you're doing, it's just best to take it to an expert who knows what they're doing. And they can, you take it to like Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever, and they'll download, the files that you want from your phone. Yes, ma'am. Not much on paying bills online. I mean, generally that's like, like utility stuff. Because most of the time that stuff you've probably been doing that most people have been doing that for some time now and setting up auto pay. And so it's tough. I think it's tough for scammers to interrupt that cycle. And so if they can't get in with a text message or an email saying, hey, we have an overpayment on your account or you owe money, then there's not much that they do. We don't usually have a lot of issues with bill pay scams. Yeah.
This is kind of an email thing. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but at least in the FCC and the amateur service, email is the primary source of contact. It's no longer U.S. Postal Service. So the workaround there is if you get something by email, check it out in your account through the website platform. It's a little bit safer than answering the emails. If you get an email, we were talking before about government usually
goes through the mail, but yeah.
Well, at least one government agency, part of the FCC, they do require email as the primary source of contact. And so the workaround is to go through your own account through the website rather than answering the email.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're gonna get to we'll get to all of that as well. The romance scam. So I'm sure this one applies to lots of people in the room looking for love, right? But in all seriousness, this does affect the older generation, people who are looking for relationships in their older life. This is all about trust. As with all these scams, it has a foundation in trust, right? But this is also, the young people would call this catfishing, right? And it is building an online relationship with someone, right? And then you end up sending them money, right? And you would think, oh no, I've been talking to this person for 4 or 5 years. They're a real person, right? I can trust them with money. I would say a rule is never send money to someone you haven't met in person, right? Like there are lots of great stories in these modern times of long distance, distance relationships over online and everything else that have worked out, right? People who have met online, haven't met for 2 or 3 years, and then they meet and they have great relationships, right? But if you don't meet them, if you haven't met them in person yet, right, and don't take a picture for saying I know what they look like, right, or even a video now, right? Because like I said, AI can make videos that look like anybody they want to. If you haven't met them in person, I would not send them money. I'm not telling people not to do online relationships, because I couldn't tell you what a real online relationship is versus a fake online relationship, right? But I wouldn't send money to them unless you've met them in person. So that's the spiel on romance scams. But what you'll normally see is they'll profess their love pretty quickly, generally, a couple of weeks or something like that. They'll frequently claim to be from the U.S., but overseas on business or some sort of service, right? Which means, they're not available to meet in person, right? That's why they're not available. They're overseas, but they're a U.S. citizen, okay? They'll try and get you off of whatever dating site you might have met on, right? And then they need money for some reason, for an emergency, a hospital visit. After you've built that bond over a couple of weeks, they've already told you how much they love you, all these great things that they're doing or whatnot, why they can't meet you and everything else. And then, I broke my foot, or, I have to have emergency appendicitis or something, right? I need money. Good thing about being in hospital in another country, they probably have free health care, right? So you'll be all right. So, business opportunity. This one is one of the saddest cases I ever worked. An older gentleman. He was reached out to by someone he thought was an old high school acquaintance, an old high school friend, through Facebook, wanting to reconnect. Had this great business opportunity, right? And he talked about, oh man, like, hey, I've been doing this investing business for a couple of years, and now I've got a couple houses, I've got these cars, I got this boat now. Hey, if you want to join in on this, right, you just need this initial investment, right, of this amount. Right, and this was all through online communication. So he sends them an initial amount. Okay, well, you can expect a good return in a year or two. Okay, oh, we need a little bit more of an investment, a little bit more of an investment every couple of months, right? By the end of it, right, by the time that this guy actually came to us and had stopped sending money, he had sent about $500,000. He had sent his kids, I think it was his grandkids' college funds, his kids' inheritance, like everything he planned to pass on, he had sent off to this investment opportunity with this promised return by a high school acquaintance who reached out to him on Facebook, who, again, he'd not actually met in person, and all it was is someone who took took that acquaintance's name, probably from some yearbook or whatever, and went and tried to reach out to everyone in that yearbook, right? So, again, we go back to, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? If he's talking about, you'll make, you give us $20,000 and you'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year or two off of that, probably too good to be true. if they tell you, if someone says, hey, I got this great company to invest in, and where a lot of people this applies for young people too, because a lot of young people get caught up in like those multi-level marketing schemes, right? I always tell people, Google the company name, add scam onto the end of it, right? That'll tell you, you'll quickly see if that's a scam or not, because people will have stories or articles about, oh, I was scammed by this company and doing this, this, or this, or someone called me saying this, this, or this. There will be stories out there because you weren't going to be the very first victim of whatever this scam was. So be cautious of old acquaintances, like the romance thing, right, that you haven't met in person, or old acquaintances that want to quickly clue you in on something, right? What makes a person that you knew 40 years ago suddenly want to reach out and clue you in on the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right? Yeah, right. Don't do any investing until you've done your own research into it. Don't rely on other people saying, oh, here's the research for, whatever the returns on something are, right? Do your own independent research on whatever the business is. I think that's probably just solid business advice in general. Don't rely on others' expertise. That's kind of hand in hand. And then generally, unless you really, really know what you're doing with things, I just tell a lot of people, avoid crypto. Avoid anything where people tell you to exchange money with crypto or pay in crypto and everything else, right? Because unless you know what you're doing, it is an easy way to get taken advantage of with a very low to practically zero chance of ever having your money returned to you. All right, so those are some of the common scams that we see a lot of in the police department. And the big lesson is think critically. All right, we talk about those red flags. Be skeptical of emails, messages, phone calls, anything that seems too good to be true or urgent. Think before clicking on any links. Talked about hovering over a link, right? Looking at where that link is taking you to. Ask yourself if it seems legitimate. Verify the authenticity of the sender and the information provided to you before taking any action. Try to meet a person face to face, right? Do your own research into whatever the company is. And if you get a lot of these red flags, talk to someone else. Get someone else's input who is removed from the situation. Because a lot of times when we're in that situation, right, it's tough for us to make an independent judgment on whether something is good or bad. Talk to another family member. Say, hey, here's what just happened to me. What do you think about this? Because a lot of times they're going to be able to look at it with a much clearer view, and they're going to say, oh no, that's a scam. You need to avoid that. All right. So, if you've been scammed, right? If you are victims, if you know people who have been victimized, you need to call your bank, your financial institutions, wherever your money is at right away. Let them know that you have your information out there. You need to lock it down, right? They can do that. All right. Change passwords on any of your critical accounts. All right. Anything that you want to, any online banking, right? Any stuff that you shop recently through. Anything that you do or use a lot of, you should be changing your passwords on. If you have turned over your social security number in addition to your information, probably a good idea additionally to contact the Social Security office. because they can flag your social security number as a potential victim of identity theft. So they will then kind of be on the lookout, if someone tries to file a false tax return or use your social security number for opening up loans or something like that. They can flag that for sure. And then you can contact Nigerian print scams. Okay, we are a local police department. We have only so many resources and so much expertise in international crime. All right, your best bet is contact the FBI. Go to this website, ic3.gov. That is the Internet Crimes website for the FBI. That is their reporting website, ic3.gov. Yes, yeah.
And don't expect the return from them is re-recorded and replied.
Oh, no. Oh, no. FBI is not going to get back to you. No. This would be more of a, they're going to take your information and, if it becomes one of 20 or 30,000 cases of a similar style, then they will probably start investigating it. Right? And they do have the expertise and the resources then to investigate something on that, that level, and they can actually find out who is perpetrating them to some extent. But yes.
I hate to say this, one of the things you might have to pay for is fraud insurance.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you think you've got a lot of assets that are vulnerable. Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but that's a good point. He said one of the things you can consider is fraud insurance, attaching it to a homeowner's policy. So. Yes, sir. Did you have a question? No. Then the other website is the Federal Trade Commission, reportfraud.ftc.gov. All right, so we're coming to the end of the presentation. Any other questions or thoughts for me? Anyone have anything about? Yes.
The social security number.
Yes.
Everybody's asking for that now, even doctor's offices. And I think it's probably against Social Security's policies that you only have to give it when they're associated with it. But is there a lot of issue with that now?
I don't see as much issue with that. The only issues we run into, go ahead.
They don't have to pay for identity for a program to identify you
To
with
get
a
a
number.
profile.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
Well, yeah.
so supposedly the social security number is a unique number.
Yeah.
It's not anymore, because everybody, you go get insurance, you've got to have your social.
No, but you have a different one from me.
Yes, that's true. But you're right, years ago, that was the only thing was with the government, with your taxes, other than that, but not anymore.
So we don't see a lot of cases that come to us about Social Security fraud. The only ones that really do are generally like someone has filed taxes under my Social Security number, and that's where I would say that's where you need to address that with the IRS, because obviously we can't. The IRS investigates tax crimes and go to the Social Security Administration to get your number flagged and everything. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was going to say with this, I did have a friend who was called by someone from Medicare who asked her for her Medicare number. And so that was another tie to the Social Security the number and
Mm-hmm.
some of my customers, so be
Yeah.
careful of that.
Yeah. Remember, when you're doing any of these things, right? If you have a question, well, not necessarily don't do it, but you can always, you can always hang up, find the legitimate business number, and call them back, right? And say, hey, would there be a reason for you guys to call me? And they'll tell you yes or no. I mean, because then you know who you're talking to. Then, and yes.
Just to mention something, my doctor had ordered a sleep study for me, in-home sleep study, and when I received the text, it was from someone I had no idea who it was from, and then I was supposed to click on the link or whatever, but I'm like, I'm not clicking on any links, so I just kind of researched and found the number so I could just call them directly. I'm like, I don't know who this is from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just another thing. Whenever there's something that comes in, I'm like, I'm not clicking on anything.
Yeah, that's tricky because there's so many like third-party vendors now that a lot of doctors or other companies use to do payment processing or scheduling or things like that. That it becomes difficult, and you'd like to see those offices say, hey, you're going to be contacted by this third-party vendor, to schedule it or something like that, but they're not always the best at that.
There is no clarity. You have to ask.
Yeah. Yep. So.
At this point, in 10 years, none of us are going to have any money. It's frightening.
It is, and the AI is a big technology that has a lot of potential for good, and it has a lot of potential for bad. I think governments and financial institutions are still, trying to figure out how they're going to kind of protect their customers and their customers, accounts from getting stolen. Yes.
Just remind me, talk about not clicking on links, but also don't click on any attachments within emails that you're not expecting.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. That's a great point. Should have added in there. Attachments to emails is what she said. If it's a suspicious email, certainly don't click on any attachments, right? Because you click on an attachment that can automatically download a file to your computer that can contain all sort of harmful viruses and malware and stuff. Yes.
I know we hear often in the news when there's a data breach, and companies, a lot of it started with companies right now are collecting a lot of information. What is their obligation to notify their client customers and account holders?
Most companies generally, I believe, have a legal obligation to notify you if your information has been involved in a data breach. I mean, I think over the years I've gotten a number of notifications from. I think there was a big Target one, and a couple of others, and every so often you get one that says, "Hey, your information was potentially involved in a data breach." I think could be a party to
About 18 months ago, Prudential notified me by letter. It wasn't registered, but it came from Prudential,
Mm-hmm.
and said that they had been hacked and lost 60,000 personal information sheets, which included name, address, phone number, birthday, social security, driver's license, everything that the company would have.
Right.
And they offered a service which was going to monitor my accounts. And so for 2 years for free, I've been using it. And it gets me some interesting answers sometimes. Like, your information on the dark web.
Yeah. It's going to, there's nothing really that's out there that's going to prevent your information from getting used once it's out there. It's going to tell you your information's out there, and it might help you mitigate or recover once your information's been used. But the biggest thing is don't contribute to the problem by falling for these scams.
So on financial accounts, besides logging in and using a password, can you use that second means of identification, which says text me at my phone? Because now it's only going to go to one place, and that's my phone.
Yes, yeah, I would definitely. So what he's talking about is called two-factor authentication. I would definitely sign up for that if you haven't already. That means generally it always used to be you just had a login and a password. Now, because that can generally be hacked or stolen, right? You have a second way to authenticate your identity, right? And it's usually tied to like a phone number, right? Or even if you're using a mobile device like facial ID or something like that. So they'll send you a text message and then you have to enter the number or whatever in there as well. I would definitely sign up for multi-factor identification if it's available. Yes, sir.
How safe is that Face ID?
Seems safe to me. I don't, I'm not an expert in that.
I'm just saying, it's
yeah.
more popular now than it's been, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
Like
I don't
said,
know
you
this.
can duplicate a picture.
I've read something
Yeah.
with women that wear makeup. They have it on when they take a picture. They don't have it on when they meet, when it's being questioned, and it doesn't identify.
Doesn't identify.
Because they're looking good today, and the day I woke up.
Right.
Right.
He's certain. I know he's not talking about you. I know he's not talking about you. I know.
I don't know about you guys. I have a little blue book,
Mhm.
and I have 6 pages of friggin' passwords.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I'm gonna will them to my kids. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I've got them just written passwords.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I even date. I change it.
Yeah. That would be to Jerry's point. That would be a good thing for Nancy. I don't know if it was your question earlier about what to do if you have, for older person who's starting to struggle. Make sure that someone else who's trusted has access to those passwords and everything too, knows where the password book is, or has access to those accounts and things, so that they can get in and if they need to, they can make changes or lock things down.
Can you just kind of fast forward a little bit because our time is running?
Oh, we're done. We're done. Yeah. It's bonus time.
I've been more interested in
Yeah. Yeah. So, if there's nothing else, you're welcome.